and not just one of the best animated films of the year, but just one of the best movies of the year. Please join me in welcoming some of the artists who brought this film to life. I want to start with a SAG Award-winning actor for his work on Stranger Things. Please welcome Wolfhard. A two-time Academy Award-winning actor who voices Wolfhard in the movie. He assured me his SAG dues are paid up. Please welcome Christoph Waltz. The young actor who voices both Pinocchio and Carlo. Please welcome Gregory Mann. Directors. He is, of course, an Emmy and Annie Award winner whose work includes The PJs and Miss Teresa's Store. Please welcome Gustafson. I'm really starstruck. Finally, we have the film's director, co-writer, producer. He is, of course, a two-time Oscar winner whose films include The Shape of Water and Pan's Labyrinth. It's a hard act to follow, but please welcome Guillermo del Toro. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on a beautiful film. I don't think, does that happen everywhere you go? Like you walk into Starbucks and you get a standing out?
It happens in Big and Tall. Here comes over here.
That's amazing. This is actually an audience of your fellow SAG actors. So I always love to start by asking the actors, what was your first job as an actor? The first time you realized this was a career, or the first time you got paid for it, whatever you consider those. Let's start with Finn.
Mine sounds a little sketchy. I first did, it was a music video for a local band where I lived in Vancouver, and the ad was from Craigslist. So I answered that, and then, yeah, that was my first job. I got it off some creepy ad. But it worked out. It was great.
Once upon a time, Craigslist was a really good resource for filmmaking.
I'm sure it was.
Christoph, for you?
I forgot.
No. Do you need me to tell you?
It's been too long.
It was theater, though, right? I bet you started in theater?
I started young, yes. That's what I mean. It's a long time ago.
All right, Gregory, for you?
I think I was in a BBC advert when I was maybe about 7, but if you blinked, you would miss it. I was just in a flash of it.
That's start. Well, again, congratulations. Thank you all for being here. I want to start beginning with Guillermo, obviously, because I'm first of all amazed any film ever gets made. It's so hard, but I understand this film took something like 15 years to make.
I was talking to a couple of our friends yesterday. We haven't seen each other in a while. It took longer. Yeah, it took a little bit too long. But never give up. I mean, we got many no's. Mark would travel to pitch. We would go on pitch. We would get our parking validated. And he would fly back. It is, and people say, oh, you must be able to get everything made. And the answer is very simple. I've written or co-written 32 screenplays. I've made 12 movies. So I basically don't know how I have even a filmography, because I've had 5 years between Kronos and Mimic, 5 years between Mimic and Devil's Backbone, 5 years again a little later, so 15 years there, 20 screenplays not ever made, 30 years of career. It turns out I was inactive half of the time.
You're making up for lost time, though. You have Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix right now, too.
Well, that's my COVID search. that COVID made everything go flame.
So what is it about, it's a classic story of Pinocchio, but what is it about this story that speaks to you so personally?
Well, I've said the two figures that I consider more biographical than any others that define me more clearly are Pinocchio and the Picture of Frankenstein. Basically, that was my childhood and teenage years in that order. And the movies that I do, especially now that I'm 58, what happens is you become more and more deep on why you need to make the movie, because you basically are reneging on your life. You basically have no life. Socially, you're a failure, you are always absent, you are barely there, and you say, which one is worth sacrificing life? And this is one of them. Yeah.
Mark, for you, you are a legend in stop motion animation. You've been doing this a long time. At what point did Guillermo approach you, and were you instantly on board?
I think it was about 2012, somewhere in there. I think it was maybe. That's when I heard about it. In any case, yeah. And then obviously I just got a phone call, and Guillermo said, "Would you like to work on Pinocchio with me?" I said, "Let me think about it."
Well, at this point, I mean, Guillermo's always been an acclaimed director that everyone wants to work with, but in 2009, he hadn't won his Oscars yet. He was, you know...
I looked down on him.
Yeah, exactly. So there's probably a lot of hesitation.
Yeah, but I came around. Yeah.
Good, I'm glad you did. I'm curious because I love stop motion so much, but I am such an impatient person. I can't imagine anyone who actually does this for a movie. What is it about this medium that speaks to you so strongly that you haven't pivoted to digital or something?
Well, we use a certain amount of digital.
Sure.
It's just another tool. But I think for me, the fact that you can really see the artist's hand in the finished product, it gives the audience a kind of a connection to it that you can't get any other way. For me, it started out, I remember seeing Jason and the Argonauts and the skeleton fight, and just as a kid, just being mesmerized by it. Like, how is that possible? It was unlike anything else, and it wasn't because it was perfect. It was because I could tell the human hands had done it, and it was so creepy. I thought, wow, I want to creep people out too.
But the thing that this has, that no other animation thing has, is the intimacy between the model and the animator is completely, like you playing with toys, the most sophisticated, beautiful, places, handmade in the world. But it also reminds me a lot of the Japanese art of Bonraku, where the puppet is an extension of the actor. And we made sure that the animators understood. The first time we started working, we said, you are not animators, you are actors. You are actors, and you connect with the puppet every morning when we instructed the animators. For each shot, we would say, this is what we want, this is what you want to do. But if you feel something different, if you are in the middle of a take and you want to try something else, do it. And we directed the animation unlike, I think, any other animation in stop motion ever. Animation tends to be too animated. It tends to be almost action for action's sake, a lot of pantomime that has been very codified. And here we did micro gestures, listening, we did failed acts.
They stumble and fall?
The stumble, fall, right, like when Geppetto hits the balloons and gets tangled on them. Things that are not necessary, and normally we are used to a very falsified depuration of reality in animation. But we were guided by principles that negated that, and we, every time, now and then we repeated. How many shows do you think we repeated total?
Probably 30.
Which in animation is incredible to go, we're going to do it again. And what we would say, we would emphasize, say, you don't want to move the model, you want to give it a soul, animate. What is the character thinking? What is the character feeling? And where we came from? What was the shot before and the shot after? And we would instruct them like that.
That's so cool. Your animators aren't just credited as animators, are they? They're credited as...
Well, the animators, we decided to credit them.
Yeah, there are actors. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they got the best of the best. And the thing is, approaching the film this way, we had to trust our animators because we were giving them more agency. So they were going to fail occasionally, and that was okay, and we let them know it was okay if they failed because we knew who they were and we knew that they were going to bring their A game. And I think we got some amazing performances, some very, very subtle stuff.
All the way?
All the way. And it's because we talked about those things about thinking, like look at a character, watch their eyes. If you can see them processing information, even when they're not talking, they're just listening, but you see them thinking, then they're alive.
I mean, I'm not surprised the film looks so beautiful, but it's not going to work without the perfect voice cast. And you have the most amazing ensemble, including these actors here today. I'd love to talk to the actors about how you sort of were drawn to the project, and specifically your roles. And Gregory, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't know when you were auditioning what you were auditioning for. Can you tell me about the process?
You thought it was a BBC advert.
Well, I've always wanted to be in an animation, so from the last thing before Pinocchio, I said, Mom, I really want to be in an animation. So as soon as it came, even though it wasn't Pinocchio, it was just say some lines with certain expressions for an animation. So I did it, I put my heart into it, and then when I found out it was Pinocchio, it made it like 10 times better because then I wanted to put even more effort in because it's a classic, everyone knows what Pinocchio is, so I'm just very thankful that I did get the role in the end and I can be here sitting here right now.
And you got a free trip to Disneyland.
Wait a minute, did you mean Club 33?
It was full.
Oh, okay. I'm still jealous, but
I tried.
jealous. You remember, right?
Yes.
All right, we'll talk. Christoph, you've done so many roles and genres. What interested you in lending your voice to this film, and specifically to the role of Count Volpe?
I lent it to Guillermo.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
Not in 2009, but
It just dawned on me. It's kind of interesting that actually stop motion seems like it's being shot like every movie should be shot, with a deliberate approach, with a thoughtful process, with purpose and a plan, a precise goal, and a very, very elaborate and precise and specific way of going about it. And it's you know, everybody knows how we shoot movies today, especially, you know, what we make a living with, you know, it needs to go, you know, and it's not always that important anymore when it goes to film them. And well then this, and you know, with Mark's and Guillermo's plan behind it, so it was not lending, it was really, you know, lending a voice. It was putting it at their disposal.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is this the first time you voiced an animated character in a feature film? Yeah. Okay.
I've done it before, you know, so I knew that it's going to be different.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm sort of curious about, because you have so much experience as an actor. When you play an animated role, do you approach it differently? Do you prepare differently, or is it sort of the same process?
A role is a role.
Yeah. Finn, for you, how did you come to be involved with this production?
Yeah, I got an audition for it, and I don't know, I really identified with the character, and I thought it was beautiful. I mean, the sides that I got were really beautiful, and just about a kid who's just trying to get approval from his father, and I was drawn in from that. I mean, it also said Guillermo del Toro, so I said, I knew,
Okay.
and that was the thing. It didn't say Mark. Yeah, Mark was nothing for Mark. working with Mark and Guillermo was unbelievable. I mean, we recorded a few years ago in London, and just that kind of intimate, that scene where we're kind of talking in the bedroom and stuff, and I remember it just being very, I don't know, it just felt incredibly special. I mean, also I'm a gigantic fan of stop motion. My godmother, her first job was designing characters for Nightmare Before Christmas, and she, it was a big part of my life growing up was stop motion, and so all these things kind of went together, and it was kind of like Christoph said, just almost like lending yourself to this kind of movie. I thought it was very special.
Did any of you have preconceived ideas about voice acting? Because I'm embarrassed to admit, I always thought you could show up in your pajamas and you just sit in a booth by yourself. It is so hard. It is one of the hardest things I've ever done, and I've done it badly. You guys do it well.
You can still do it in your pajamas.
But was there anything that sort of surprised you about the challenge of voice acting?
That it's really, as I said before, that it's not that different from, because it's my personal thing that it happens up here, and the rest is a result. So why should it be different in this case?
I think I'm so bad at it. Truly, but this was actually the first thing that I did where I felt actually very proud of my work as a voice actor, because I feel like I get so distracted by the mics or not watching footage. Guillermo and Mark had sketches and storyboards and footage to help me get immersed in the world. Not only that, but it was the first time I was ever voice acting where I completely forgot about the mics being right in front of me, if that makes any sense. Sometimes you're just there and you're talking into whatever microphone, and they can be kind of, distracting. It was the first time where I felt really, really grounded and in it, and that's completely thanks to Mark and Guillermo.
And I'm curious, actually, for the directors, does your directing style change at all when you're directing voice actors? Mark, you've been doing this for a long time, so.
No, I think if you cast the right people, you just, you trust them. And we had an incredible voice cast. And then once we get that wonderful material, it then obviously informs the animation. We might have been thinking, oh, we're going to do this, but the voice will bring something, a whole new dimension to it. And so we add that to the animation, and we give that to the animators. And the animators, they are acting this out one frame at a time. So it's a very bizarre discipline to understand how you can perform in out of time. You're literally on that one frame. Well, how does that relate to the next frame and the frame before, and then 5 frames down, and then have it come out natural? And it's a magic trick.
And the number of vectors. There's the breathing vector, the hand moving this way, the eyes going that way. You're controlling 8, 10 vectors of action and moment, being on the moment. But I think I've been doing animation since I was a kid, and then doing Troll Hunters and Tales of Arcadia, which was 3 series and a feature. The only thing that you do is, as Christoph says, the same as in a movie, you find it in the room. And one of the things that was unexpected, Ewan McGregor had just come back from running around all South America in a motorcycle. And he arrived to LA, and that day he came to the recording booth, and he thought he was coming in for an interview. And he walked in with a dusty jacket, and he said, hey, so what is this character? And he go, come on in. And we got him in there, and what I did like to do in Troll Hunters is find a line. You find a line that defines a character. For example, with Kelsey Grammer, it was Monster Jim. And I kept saying, do it like a pirate. And then eventually he found the voice. And with Ewan, he started and he had the most horrible time. for about 40 minutes. And then I just said, just the sweetness you have. Just be you. If you cast right, as Mark says, and the instructions to an actor have to be simple and as monosyllabic as possible. If you start explaining, you're diminishing. The more you explain, the more you diminish the tools that they can use. So you can say higher, softer, harder, project less, project more, do it more to yourself, things like that. So the tools are the same.
Did you?
No. He thought he was coming in to talk about the character.
Okay.
Well, we recorded and we were both in heaven. I was saying, oh, I'm a terrific writer. I mean, it's not that, he was a terrific actor. I mean, that's what happens with screenwriting. You go, if you get a good actor, you go, I am great. If you don't, you go, this goddamn actor.
I'm curious about that for the actors. Was there room to improvise? Or was everything pretty locked in place once you got to the booth?
I hate improvisation.
Do you really? I know a lot of people who do.
I hate it because I'm really bad at it.
I refuse to believe that. What about for you, Gregory?
Sometimes the lines, they change a little bit. If I was in the studio and I said something, and then maybe Mark or Guillermo will say, maybe say that a different way. And even in my opening song, Everything Is New to Me, it was gonna be, how do you call it, but it changed to, what do you call it, because it kind of, I'm not really sure why, but one day we were in Abbey Road, and it just worked a lot more. So I think for me, sometimes there's a little bit of room, which I like that.
Nice name drop.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we just casually dropped. We were recording at Abbey Road. It was pretty cool.
If I had been there, I would drop it too.
Yeah.
I am curious sort of about your search for your Pinocchio, because I wonder sort of what you were looking for, and obviously you found it. Gregory's so wonderful, but how many people did you have to see, or I guess hear in this case?
Hundreds, I think.
But the ratio is always that. 100 to 1.
Yeah. And it was immediately clear that Gregory was the one.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
the only one.
Yeah, there was a sweetness and innocence and truth and energy to him that we just didn't see before.
With kids, and I've done a few projects with kids, it's always 100 to 1. So when we're around audition 90, I go, it's coming. There's only one that comes in that has not been trained by yogurt commercials. Serious when they're spunky. And he came in and he was just, the energy was completely real.
Yeah, absolutely.
At what point did you find out it was Pinocchio that you were auditioning for?
It was the second audition.
After he signed his contract.
I actually remember it quite vividly because my mum used to email me the auditions I had, so it came up. I think maybe I was on the way home from school, and it just said Pinocchio, and I was so confused, and I thought it must have been a mistake. Maybe the agency said it to the wrong boy. But I called my mum up, and she was like, "No, it's Pinocchio. You got the call back," and I was like, "Oh, that's just over the moon."
He signed with a smiling song, by the way.
I am curious because I'm looking at what I consider you right in front of you there. What was it like for the actors the first time you saw the film assembled? You'd seen sketches, but seeing your voices led to these stunning characters. What did it feel like?
It was the best feeling I've ever felt in my life. Because when I filmed, there was a camera looking at me, because I think the animators were trying to base his expressions off my expressions in the booth. So when I saw it all come to life, especially after the pandemic, which I think may have delayed it, seeing it on October the 15th was the best feeling in the world.
And that was your birthday.
That's your birthday! Christoph, for you?
I knew the character, so I expected, in terms of this character that I, was working on more than with, it was pretty much, knowing Guillermo, it was pretty much what I could have imagined before. But the movie as a whole, and I find that more interesting than evaluating what I did and my contribution. The movie as a whole is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Agree. That's true. It was very, because I had recorded a few years ago, so it was the most kind of, it really felt like I was an audience member watching the film, as opposed to, obviously I was very proud to be a part of it, but it was just so nice to just be watching all these people's work, I thought it was just so brilliant. I do quickly have how did you guys do the water?
The water needed to be digital. So, but what we did, which in Pacific Rim, I love doing a thing where the camera went out of the water and back underwater, like it was floating, and that was extremely challenging because we had to light the same puppets for above the water and below the water, and we were locking on where that line was going to be crossed. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean there were a lot of elements like smoke and fire, stuff that it just didn't make sense for us to try and do practically in stop motion. But what we could do is we did tests where we were like, okay, if we were going to do this, what would it look like? So yeah, out of acrylic or whatever. And so we did that for fire and for explosions and some for water, and then the digital artists were able to use that to model it on, so that the language of our world was consistent.
Yeah, it totally looks like
animation.
oil.
That's the difficulty. If you put real water on a stop motion puppet and set, it looks fake, or they look fake. Some of the decisions we are directed. Some of the backgrounds look like painted backgrounds. Some of the clouds need to look like cotton. So styling and now directing that is really difficult. And the same way with the mix. I told the sound designer, you cannot do a live action soundtrack because if everything is detailed, then the things are going to look lacking on the set. It's going to look like a real sound and a not real world. So we made the tracks. It was very complicated. But when we were mixing, we needed to scale down the sound design to just what you needed. Sometimes it was 30 tracks, sometimes it was 60, sometimes it was 4.
And having lived with this story for so long and probably thinking it was never going to happen at certain points, what was it like for you to finally see it realized? You had your AFI premiere last night, everybody was crying. Can you kind of believe that it's done?
I knew we could finally. We've been in this journey so long. And a director, often we turn on the lights on the bar, and then we clean the vomit and turn it off. And we're there for the whole ride. And it really is, it's beautiful because the difficulty on this movie is how complex it was tonally. We needed to be able to go from a Tex-Avery limo delivering Mussolini and a Warner Brothers cartoon limo to the most real, intimate moments of spiritual connection. And that is what was very complicated. And then you put it in front of the audience, you're going to have basically a donut with caviar and sushi. And you have to have blended those flavors for the audience to feel they're being transported. But having recently done Douglas Sirk love story between an amphibian man and a woman with musical numbers, we were able to do it. And Mark and I, when we were, for example, directing the actors, and I would like to talk about it, is we would choose different takes. And he would say, can I have another one? Or you want to talk about when we would record it?
Obviously,
we're looking different things.
Yeah. We're two different people.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really important element to making this film. We're very simpatico. We see things very similar, but occasionally, we would see things differently, but we knew how to approach that. We were going to always compare it to the theme, to the character, to the story, and then, we would have the discussion, and then Guillermo would win.
I have said okay more in this movie than in my entire life.
Well,
I love and admire this man.
it's such a beautiful film, and you're so right about the tones, because it can be dark in places, but it's so joyous and just so full of life. I want to remind everyone, this movie will actually be in theaters in November before premiering on Netflix in December. Please spread the word, let everyone know it's such a